Hello everybody, my name is Chris Paul. I'm a social media pundit and commentator. Well, I might be a cantankerous young man to some people, but when it comes to social media commentary, I'm fairly bright and well equipped. My views might be reprehensible to some people, but that's what you get when your views are solely yours and you don't have to report to anybody. This is my program. These views aired here are mine and mine alone. I don't have to bend over to ingratiate myself to anybody just to pay the bills. I'm not loyal to individuals, but to robust values, ideals, guided by my own principles. Thus, I presume it suffices to say, I'm on a lifelong trajectory that includes a Nobel Prize, streets and institutions named after me. All four wisdom teeth in my mouth, they work without a need of extraction. My bowel movements work like a German train schedule, always on time. Well, enough with the jokes. Allow me to briefly acquaint you with this program, my program, Chris Paul's Digest. Now, this is a program where I dissect, discuss, analyze, and connect the dots, take stock, and simply weigh in on widely discussed topics ranging from pop culture, politics, business, social, and economic. I welcome you once again, folks, to this first era of Chris Paul's Digest. In today's episode, I'll be weighing in on one of the hottest topics of this week, the termination of Dr. Bernhard Haufiku's contract by President Hage Geingob. Without further ado, my people, let's get right into it. I personally woke up to the news and there was this barrage of comments, opinions with criticism on President Hage's termination of Dr. Bernhard Haufiku's role as special advisor on health matters to the presidency. As usual, I acquainted myself with the topic at the hour and managed to bring myself up to speed. As you probably all know by now, there was so much flack on social media towards the president and the establishment, as some people tried to grapple with what had just happened. Thus, overly critical of government, of course, as always, had a lot to say. Yes, a whole lot to say. And a whole lot of it, as usual, was vastly gibberish and completely malarkey. Not that I was surprised by the level of condemnation without comprehension. That's expected, obviously, because it has become a norm for people on social media to pass themselves off some sort of experts. If you took time to listen and read the criticism, there was a recurring theme that it comprised of. A theme of, to say the least, hypocrisy and ignorance. They belong to either one of the two groups, the less informed and the one hell-bent at misinformation. You know, the less informed are those who just pass judgment for the sake of just doing it without having the focused comprehension of what just transpired. And those hell-bent at misinformation are the ones whose aim is to spread misinformation that suits their agenda. They are not interested in finding facts. They just want to criticize, as that bonds well with their agenda of undermining efforts of our government and belittling its leadership. They were not interested in finding out why Haufiku's contract was terminated in the first place, only to find out everything that's at fault, everything that's wrong with our president and his government. Look, I have nothing against Dr. Haufiku. He's a nice lad. He's a nice chap who I've met a few times. I've watched perform or do his work in the field a few times. I know him quite well. For me, he has remained bitter because of his demotion after he was demoted from being Minister of Health. And now he's hell-bent at making his successor's life, Kalumbi Shangula, a hell, or a living hell, as a lot of people might say. It was communicated during a task meeting, and even every expert the world over can conquer that this virus thrives on panic. Therefore, everyone should remain calm when addressing the public about the pandemic. Dr. Haufiku, however, he decided to use populism tactics, like they normally do, putting himself forward as some sort of a messiah, claiming the leadership has failed the people, when in actual fact, he's the contact person for the task force. Look, Dr. Haufiku's prediction that the virus will get worse in Wolfish Bay were nothing special, but an obvious fact that everybody knew, from CDC Namibia, CDC Africa, World Health Organization, including infectious disease experts the world over. It was always inevitable that Wolfish Bay will become the epicenter of the virus in this country. Why? Because it's a port of entry. It is a harbor town. like where goods and services bound for Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and even DRC pass through on a daily basis. Hundreds of trucks bound for neighboring countries leave Walfish Bay every day. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that no country is immune to this virus. I guarantee you that even the countries that have been praised for having the best response methodology are experiencing cases in the hundreds or even thousands as we speak. Those are facts. The big question here now becomes, how do you control a health crisis that's spread by human to human interaction, a basic fundamental humanity, and at the same time mitigate the economic impact that our livelihood is dependent on? And believe you me, this is a balance that every country on earth is trying to strike. As we speak, not even the mighty superpowers of God's green earth have an answer to this unfortunate outbreak. If there's one thing that Dr. Haufiku has proven of himself, is the fact that he's allergic to anything resembling a team's player. His messianic tendency have led him, to have this propensity of personal glory, and even that, even if that glory means putting his colleagues under or diverting or disregarding authority and protocol. He's fixated with telling the general public what they want to hear, and even if this means throwing his colleagues under the bus, I can tell you this: he is weak and meek, exactly the type of leaders that journalists constantly take advantage of. You know the type, loud as a motorbike but won't bust a grape in a fruit fight. Leaders this type get taken advantage of by journalists all the time. How? Journalists have this thing of asking you leading questions where they lead you to a certain point so that you can say exactly what they want you to say, because it fits in quite well with their agenda or the narrative that they would like to drive. And if you're not careful, you end up divulging information to them that you have no business divulging in the first place. And I tell you, I've known Dr. Haufiku for a while now. He's erratic, lacks professional discretion, has absolutely no sense of self-restraint when it involves sensitive and confidential information. Don't get me wrong, Dr. Haufiku is an exceptional doctor. I give him that. He's a good doctor you want on the front line, working hands on deck on the crisis, but certainly not the type of person you want talking to the media, divulging information. You don't want this guy in charge of handling sensitive and dispensing sensitive information to the public. He's an emotional wreck, foreign to anything resembling a stable guy. Here's an example you might recall on the situation in Walfish Bay. He's quoted to have publicly said, "We failed to coordinate our effort, bring everybody together, and as a result, we lost community trust and collaboration, and we lost trust of the private sector, which is a critical component of the response." Okay, well, this is a statement that might read pretty during a debate contest, but certainly not the type as a leader you want to be giving to the public, or a president's advisor on key health issues for that matter, dispatching this kind of message to the public during a calamity of seismic proportions like the COVID-19. And if you don't understand this might help you. I came across an impressive analysis of the difference between Dr. Haufiku and Honorable Kalumbi Shangula by one person by the name of Eleni Haihumbi, I'd like to presume. I hope I pronounced that correct. The person said of Dr. Haufiku, and I quote, "At times he appears tense, and mostly what they have discussed in the technical meetings is precisely what he brings to the public. And at times, it creates a sense of fear and uncertainty." And for Honorable Shangula, the person wrote, "Constantly calm and collected. His way of disseminating information to the public is filtered and at times brings a sense of hope and certainty." And I don't need to tell you, I don't really know who this person is, but I tell you this, the description of the two men is absolutely spot on. This statement succinctly describes a man fit to be a leader and one who's emotionally immature and unstable, unfit to be one. And you don't need me to point out for you that Honorable Shangula bears the hallmark of what a leader should be in times of a pandemic of seismic proportions like this one. This means, I tell you my friend, this man's level of traditional emotional reticence is top of the line. And reticence, for those who might not know, is the ability to be reserved, calm, and in control of a difficult situation. Well, here are my final thoughts. The president was right in terminating Dr. Haufiku's role because he was becoming a liability instead of an asset. His actions, on more than one occasion, have undermined the effort of others, or the effort that others are trying to render, and cripple them because of his, he wants to push this narrative that he's this messiah, recalcitrant messiah who knows it all. He seems only to think about him and his public image to the people and what he's trying to project, that he's some sort of a snob. And here's the thing, I tell you, my friend, Dr. Haufiku, I'm speaking to you right now. Your termination in no way suggests that you are a bad doctor. It simply means you have contravened clauses in your contract and broke the trust. You let your bitterness and resentment affect your professionalism. You have violated the term or the code. Rather, let me put it this way. You have violated a team player's code and protocol and deviated from the guidelines set forth. As such, the termination simply means that you are better off sort of making your contribution to the fight against COVID-19 elsewhere, not where emotional calm and level-headedness is required. My friend, I tell you this, you're simply not a team player. And someone like you is very dangerous because you tend to jeopardize, whether knowingly or unknowingly, sabotage what could otherwise be a successful mission or a successful operation. Like I said, you are weak. There's nothing macho about you, my friend. That's why you are such an emotionally unstable man. This is exactly why instead of running a ministry, you were obsessed with catfights with the other fellow. What was his name? Iben Ashandi. A man devoid of anything resembling masculinity. I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. Here's my advice to you, mate. Doctor, when you are a general tasked by your king to lead an army in battle, you don't turn around and point fingers at your king or your soldiers when the going gets tough. You forge ahead, whatever the outcome. A true leader follows his values no matter what. Sometimes that requires a mea culpa, but sometimes that means unpopular decisions and sticking to your morals. That's true. If you feel that the protocol or procedures that are set in place are in conflict with your moral values, get ghost, leave, get out. Let other people step in and lead. Don't become a hindrance or a nuisance by making disparaging statements that are not only counterproductive but also undermines the effort of others and cause general panic. Simply because you want to be hailed as the recalcitrant messiah. That's crazy. Values resonate with leaders, shaping their reactions and decisions in the face of a crisis, and more broadly, defining how their behavior and actions impact that of others. Clearly, Honorable Shangola is indeed one that considers best practices for successful leadership, including a reflection of his personal values and leadership principles, followed by a 360-degree assessment to ensure others view his behavior and actions as consistent with his stated values and role. And Honorable Shangola has been exceedingly consistent and exemplary in dealing and handling the pandemic. I'm sorry, COVID-19 is real. And the last thing the team that's supposed to be advising the president needs right now is someone to sabotage their effort and poke holes at the boat. I'm sorry, Dr. Haufiku, but you needed to go. Good thing, you're a doctor, and a good one for that matter. You surely will be of good service elsewhere. And those were my final thoughts. Subscribe, share, like, and comment. Thank you. See you next time.